Hello, everyone. I'm Momena Awan, a final year student at King Edward Medical University, Lahore. I'm currently working as liaison for Mentorship and Education Program at RSAP. And on behalf of RSAP, I welcome all of you to this webinar about navigating a postdoc research fellowship in the US. RSAP is the Radiological Student Association of Pakistan, and at RSAP, we strive to unite aspiring radiologists and trainees throughout the country. Our team of board of directors consists of our co-presidents, Dr. Ali Hasnan, Dr. Hassan Nadeem, as well as other members, including Dr. Rana Hassan, Armin, Khwaja, Ali Hassan, Alina, Momena, which is me, and Ahmed Abdullah. I'm going to hand over to Rana Hassan for a brief introduction about RSAP, and then we would proceed. Over to you, Hassan.
Thank you, Momina. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope I am audible and everyone is having a nice time at home listening to our brief orientation of the Radiological Students Association of Pakistan before we proceed to our wonderful webinar with our guest speakers on postdoc. So the Radiological Students Association of Pakistan. So some of you may or may not be familiar with this organization. We launched it last year. Dr. Arslan and Dr. Ali from King Edward's and from Allama Iqbal Medical College. Both of them came together with the idea that there isn't a society in Pakistan specific for radiologists or aspiring radiologist trainees. And that's what has brought all of us together here today for. So just a brief introduction. And so our association is the first of its kind. It's the only Radiological Students Association in Pakistan. And also in the world, there are very few organizations for radiological trainees. So we are also acknowledged and we've been congratulated by the Radiological Society of North America, RSNA. So many of you in the field of radiology would be aware of this organization. So it's the largest organization of radiologists in the US. And most of us want to, go and pursue radiological training in the United States, or still some would like to do in Pakistan, some in the UK or other countries. So we've been congratulated by them, and we're formally a member organization with them, and they share our opportunities with us. And the members, some of you who may be in the call, members of RSAP, would be aware that we share training opportunities with them, with you guys. So RSAP has basically 3 working committees. So it's the Research Publications Committee. That's our main branch, which focuses on getting researches out in publications. We'll talk more about it later. Membership and Education Committee. So Momna Awan, she's basically our liaison for membership, the Mentorship and Education Committee. And they're basically hosting this webinar today for us. And the Advocacy and Networking Committee. So the RSAP Board of Directors. So we're led. I'm the chair of the board. I'm the chairperson for the Radiological Students Association in Pakistan, and with me we have the 2 presidents, co-presidents. That we have our secretary treasurer Armin. We have our DPRC, Ali Aslan, who's done a wonderful job making this presentation, our DHR, Khwaja, and our 3 liaisons, Alina, Ahmed, and Momna. We also are joined by our board of advisors. So we have many board of advisors. They're in high positions in the US, and we have some from the UK and in Pakistan as well. So here we have them. Our associate directors are also joining the call by a few, and they've done a wonderful job in RSAP. So if you want to join RSAP, you have all these opportunities to become an associate director, and later on to come into the other leadership positions, and also obviously work in the committees. And so our other associate directors, and then we have our campus ambassadors, so different colleges in Pakistan and also in Shaukat Khana Memorial Cancer Hospital and other hospitals. We have appointed our ambassadors, and they are responsible in their own domain for disseminating information among your colleges. But if anyone sees that their college is represented here, that they can obviously reach out to us, and we can appoint you guys as campus ambassadors so that you can also share information with your college, anyone who's interested in to become a radiologist, because there's no other society in Pakistan that does this. So we have, and then through the ambassador program, we had set up interest groups. So we have a few interest groups in each college, and we mainly share our opportunities through these interest groups or through the ambassadors, and then it gets disseminated, or you can follow us on our social media pages. We're officially partnered. So one of the amazing things is that we're officially partnered with DataCamp and Amboss. And DataCamp has donated us scholarships worth $400 per year. And we have a number of free licenses that we give out to our members. We had a membership form, and everyone who applied, and then out of that, we give those members this scholarship. So this is definitely an amazing benefit that you get through RSAP, and there's many more to come like this. So we got 29 scholarships awarded, 39 courses completed, 196,000 EXP earned. That's more focused when you join the program. And these are all of the we got from them. So apply now for the RSAP and DataCamp donate scholarship for 1 year, and it's worth $400. So, and you get that being a member of RSAP. So I'm gonna hand over the rest of the presentation to our Secretary Treasurer, Armin. Over to you, Armin.
Thank you so much, Ehsan. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Armin Masood, serving as the Secretary Treasurer and the Liaison for National and International Affairs in RSAP. I hope I'm audible. So as Ehsan mentioned earlier, we have a committee known as the Research and Publications Committee that is advancing the radiology to research. Next slide, Ehsan. So we have published three projects up till now through RSAP. One was a systemic review and meta-analysis, one was a case study, and another was a cross-sectional study. You can find these all online as well. Next slide, Essen. So one of our studies has been accepted for an abstract presentation at the world's largest radiological scientific conference. It's known as the RSNA 2024 this year. It's basically the Scientific Assembly and the annual meeting of the Radiological Society of North America. That happens to be the largest radiological society. And also to mention that RSAP has been internationally recognized by RSNA. So we have some ongoing research projects. RPC is currently working on systemic reviews and meta-analysis, literature reviews, and bibliometric analysis. The research opportunities for these projects are shared for all RSAP members across Pakistan. And then members apply to it, and then they're shortlisted to participate in these projects. Right now, we recently opened calls for a new research project, which was systemic reviews and meta-analysis and bibliometric analysis. The deadline to apply for these projects is August 23rd, so make sure you don't miss out on this opportunity. Last year, we had an SPSS data analysis masterclass, which was free for all RSAP members, and non-RSAP members were only charged rupees 300, which is, to be honest, very less, considering the other workshops that are out there. We also had a hybrid event, which was held at King Edward Medical University on interventional radiology residency. It was labeled as the Interventional Radiology Separating Facts from Fiction. And our speaker was Dr. Amir Ali. He's an MD. He's a PGY3 resident at the University of Texas Health Science Center. And he happens to be one of the board of advisors at RSAP as well. And this session provided crucial insights on the competitive application strategies, the different residency pathways to interventional radiology, the matched resident qualifications, and basically guiding aspiring interventional radiologists. So we have a very diverse membership base. We have people from all over medical colleges in Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan, Islamabad, KPK, and also Azad Jammu and Kashmir. RSAP hasn't even turned 1 yet, which means that it's not been a year since we launched. RSAP was launched last year in September, and we already have a very diverse membership base, and we expanded a lot over the last few months. So once you're an RSAP member, you definitely get certain benefits, which includes free access to the RSAP community, the webinars, the resources catalog, and the different sessions that happen. You also get a newsletter that keeps you updated on the RSAP activities and opportunities. You also get to participate in the RSAP's mentorship program and research projects. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a call open for these research projects that you can apply, and the deadline is 23rd August, but for that you need to be an RSAP member first. We have also more benefits that you get an official RSAP membership certificate and the letter in your name. It goes on your CV and it acts as a proof that you're an RSAP member. We also have subscriptions for the educational resources to our partners, and you also get access to our leadership opportunities. As mentioned earlier, you can be an RSAP ambassador or official in the future. So how to become an RSAP member? You can just scan this QR code right here, or you can visit our website, www.rsap.pk. It's going to, the membership form is over there. It's very easy to fill. All you have to do is pay 1,000 rupees as the membership fee, which to be honest is very less considering we spend 1,000 rupees daily on food. So you just have to make the payment. It's the account details are mentioned in the membership form, and well, you will be an RSAP member and you will be added to our official WhatsApp group. And for all of those who are non-RSAP members viewing this, we're really excited for you to become part of our family. If you guys have any questions, you can let us know in the comment box and we'll get to you, or you can go to our website and you can just directly type your question there and we'll directly get back to you. If you guys have any questions, please put them on the yes, this membership is for the lifetime. Also, you can follow us on our RSAP social media handles. The handle is RADSA Pakistan, or you can visit our website, www.rsap.pk, to stay updated for our latest opportunities and announcement. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you have a great time with this webinar. Over to you, Momina.
Thank you, Ehsan and Armin. Okay, so guys, we're going to proceed with the webinar. In this webinar, we have 3 exceptional speakers who are going to talk about navigating a postdoc research fellowship, and all of them will be discussing a different aspect of the topic. To keep the webinar flowing, we will not be taking questions during the presentations, and instead, there will be a detailed question and answer session once all of our speakers have presented. So you would have to wait for that patiently. I am going to start introducing our first speaker, which is Dr. Ali Hasnan, MD, who is a graduate of King Edward Medical University, class of 2022. He is an exceptional doctor and he is currently working as a postdoc research fellow at Northwestern University's Interventional Radiology Department. Actually, his passion for radiology led to the foundation of RSAP, so we are thankful to him, like always been thankful to him. He's one of the co-presidents and co-founder of RSAP. Over to you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you, Momna. I'm going to share my screen in a minute. Let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Properly. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Hasnan. I'm the co-president of RSAP and a research fellow at Northwestern University in the Department of Interventional Radiology. So these are my disclosures. And in this slides, I'm going to talk about briefly about the application process, how to be a better applicant, and to learn about the research opportunities.
Andy, can I interrupt for a bit?
Yeah,
Your
yeah, sure.
slides are not visible. We can just see a part of your screen.
Oh, let me see what I can do about it. Yeah. Can you see it now?
Not the slides.
Not the slides. Okay. Because it says that I'm sharing the screen from my end. What about now?
So we can see the slides now.
Is it working now? Can you see the slides moving?
Yes, it's working.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. So in these slides, I'm going to talk briefly about the application process, how to be a better applicant, and to learn about the work as a research fellow. So let's start with the application process. So the ideal time to apply for these positions is, in my view, is January to March, because this is the time when most of the research fellows are applying for the match. They are already in the match cycle, and their PIs are looking for new applicants. But this is highly variable because some of the labs I know, they have opportunities all around the year. But this is the timeline which is, in my opinion, is ideal. So what I would do is I would start with big institutions such as Harvard. So Harvard has 4 to 5 attached hospitals. So each of those hospitals have tremendous amount of opportunities for a postdoc positions. So start with Harvard, Hopkins, Cornell, Mayo Clinic, Northwestern. So these are not the all of the institutions, but these are some things you can start with, right? So how to look for the email addresses? You can find the email addresses on the university's official website, such as Harvard Catalyst. So this is a very useful resource which I used during when I was looking for my research positions. So you go on Harvard Catalyst, you select the hospital of the Harvard, and then you go with the department you want to target, and then you search the faculty members. So all of the faculty members, for example, gastroenterology will pop up on your screen, and you can just find their emails and then start sending the emails. Or if you cannot find the email addresses, you can use another resource, which is PubMed. So most of these professors are the corresponding authors on the research projects. So if you go on PubMed, enter their name, and search one of their research projects, you can just find their name in the institutional information in that particular research paper. So this is something very important because I have seen people doing that. They send same generic email to everyone in the same department. So this is a small world. If you send email to everyone in the same department, they're gonna know that this person is just sending the same email to everyone, and this is gonna hurt you in the long run. So make your email very personalized, like why you want to work with them, what inspired you to work with them, and just move forward with that. Another thing which is, sometimes it does not let you get through is you attach your CV in your email. So you are sending your email from your Gmail account, let's say, to someone with institutional email address. So the university security will tag that email and filter that, so they won't be able to see it. So any email with an attachment is marked as spam in the university official email address. So don't include your CV, just simply write an email, and if they reply to you, then you can ask that, is it okay if I can send my CV? So that's something you can move forward with. So this is a brief template which I used when I was looking for research opportunities. So make it as brief as possible because no one has time to, read lengthy paragraphs, and make sure you send the emails in the morning time. So let's say 8 a.m. in the US, it would be 6 to 7 p.m. in the Pakistan time. So just make sure you send emails in the morning time because that's the time when attendings have time to check their emails, because after that they are busy with their patients or whatever the stuff they have to do. So start introducing yourself that I'm a graduate of XYZ Institute, and mention that what led you to, work with them. Just mention some of their papers or the research interest they have and why you find yourself in a similar position to work with them as a research fellow. And you can mention your brief credentials. So in spite of the CV, instead of the CV, you can just mention your credentials here, like number one, step one score, step two score, number two, I have done this, 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 and number three, I have skill in this subset of like whatever software you are using or anything. You can just briefly mention, you can sell your CV in 3 points here instead of attaching a CV. So another thing which you have to mention, it's very helpful that you have to show commitment that, hey, I'm willing to work for 1 or 2 years at least, because no one wants to sponsor someone who just want to work for 6 months, or, it's a long process. They have to go through the international office of the university. So make sure you just tell them that, I'm willing to commit for 1 or 2 years. And mostly in the start, they don't have funding. So you can also mention that I can work as a volunteer as well. Because if you start with, I'm looking for a funded position, so it might be a turn off for them that this person is only looking for, funding, and he's not interested, or he or she not interested in learning opportunities. So this is the brief template. You can, take a screenshot of this, or I can share with you guys after the meeting. So how to boost your CV, how to be a better applicant. I think this is something very confusing because there's no right or wrong answer for that. So most people ask about the research experience. So in my personal opinion, you don't need substantial amount of research experience. Like the more the better, but you don't need to have, substantial or extensive research experience. So what thing will set you apart is something you can tell during an interview, that one of the analytical software such as R, SPSS. You can tell them that I've worked on these projects, I use these softwares, and I'm very familiar with them. So during the interviews, it will give you some talking points. So for example, RSAP has started this partnership with DataCam. So it's a good opportunity to learn about R, because R is very advanced than SPSS or other analytical softwares. It helps you to even code. And it's, I think, in the era of AI, it's very helpful to have this skill on your CV. So in terms of basic skills, MS Word, Excel, PowerPoint, these are must. Like you have to know these. Like you need to know how to use them, because there are different things you can do with them. So even the basic analysis you can do through Excel as well. So you should know these softwares. And another thing you should be familiar with, just I mentioned, with the referencing software such as Zotero, Mendeley, and Node, because these are the bread and butter of research projects. So you should know these things beforehand. And basic writing skills, like this is something you can practice. I know in the start we have a hard time that how to write stuff, but you have to practice this, how to avoid plagiarism, how to be very concise, because in research you have to be very brief and to the point. You don't have to write, every paper has a word limit. So you should be familiar with these things, that I have to be brief and write in a good way, that you can make the paper more impactful. So funded versus unfunded position, this is very a tricky thing, because keeping in view the economic situation in our country, we struggle with this thing because we don't know how to support ourselves in the US on an unfunded position. So there are multiple factors involved. Number one, it's sometimes luck dependent, because when you apply, that person has funding. Sometimes that person does not have funding. It doesn't mean that they don't want to fund you, but sometimes they don't have funds. They're helpless in that aspect as well. So I think this is something which you should discuss with your parents beforehand, that I want to pursue this opportunity. What's your take on this? Like, are you able to support me? So keep these questions in your mind beforehand. And I think when you start as an unpaid research fellow, you start getting paid after 6 months. Even if it's a stipend, they're not paying you full, but even sometimes they give you something to support your everyday expenses. So the best way to approach this is to be upfront about it. Like there's no harm, no one will eat you, if you ask about these, if you ask this question, just in your interview, just gently, very politely ask that, what are the prospects regarding funding? Will I be funded? And if not, when I will be funded in the future? So they will give you some, very honest answer. So every PI when you interview them, they are very honest about it. We will fund you in this much of time. We are applying for the grants. And even there is another thing which I have seen people doing, that I have done myself as well. You can apply for grants as well from your end. Like once you are in the US, you have started working on the research position, you can apply for the grants as well. So this is another thing which you can learn as well, like how to write the grants, and also this will help you fund your position as well. So I think this is a very great opportunity to learn both things and stuff. So these resources are very helpful to know the funding status of a particular lab. So let's say you interview someone XYZ, and before that you want to know that if that person or his lab has any kind of funding. So you will go on these websites, you will enter their name, and the information will pop up that, okay, this person has this amount of grants and this person has this number of funding, right? So this will help you navigate through different types of positions. For example, if you have to choose between A or B, so you can know that this person has funding and this position will be helpful for me in the future. So I think this is a very important resource to use. You can just screenshot. This is, I think, one is NIH and the other one is grant. So you can just look at these as well. So work experience, it's very variable. It depends which institution you are working at, what kind of lab it is. So in terms of lab, there are two types of lab. One is wet and one is dry. So in wet lab, you work with animal models. Like you have to actually work on like pig models, rat models. So, I know a bunch of friends who work on these animal models, doing procedures or, for example, electrophysiology these days is a very hot topic. So they are trying to, study the rhythms in an animal model and extrapolate that information on human studies. So that's a wet lab, or even the basic science research lab. And you are working in a lab, you are working on molecular or histopathological analysis. So that's something which is called wet lab experience. The other one is dry lab, which I work is you don't have to be in the actual lab. You just work from your office. You do data mining, you do data analysis, and you write abstracts, you write manuscripts. And another thing is trial coordination. So regarding the title, postdoc research fellow is a very broad topic. So your actual title might be different. It might be a research associate, research assistant. There are different titles which the university give you. So postdoc research fellow is a very broad topic. It's a very broad title which everything comes under that umbrella, right? So as a trial coordination, you have to actually be the coordinator for a clinical trial. You have to submit the IRBs. You have to go and talk to the patients, get them consented and enrolled in the actual clinical trial, and follow them up over phone, or you have to collect their data and send back to the sponsor. So these are different types of opportunities which comes under the dry lab experience. Or another thing which comes under this stuff is you can work on innovation projects as well, like patent submission, and there's a bunch of stuff. Once you start, you will get to know that there are different types of opportunities. So regarding duty hours, it's highly variable. If you are working in a wet lab, if you are a trial coordinator, you have to be there at 9 a.m., 9 to 5. These are the duty hours in the US. But if you are just working on the data analysis, you can work from home as well. So right now I'm in a different city, but I can access my our resources at Northwestern. I can work remotely and do everything I want from my laptop. So that's a perk of being a research fellow instead of a resident, because resident duty hours are very fixed. So when you start, we don't know the research dynamics over here in the US. So one thing I would recommend, and which I did, ask as many questions as possible. Like, no one expects you to know everything. No one expects you to be perfect, right? So you are here to learn. Ask as many questions as possible in the first 6 months, because you don't want to sound dumb after 6 months, because they will ask you that what did you do in the first 6 months. You didn't ask any question, and now you're asking the basic questions. So ask as many questions as you can in the first 6 months. That's a tip from my side. When I started working as a trial coordinator, I literally had to ask every little thing from one of our nurses, that how to do this, how to do that. So they don't get annoyed, as long as you are very, professional, as long as you're not pushy regarding these things. So that these things doesn't matter. So don't take this thing into account that you don't know such stuff, because eventually you'll learn. There's a first time for everything. So don't think about this stuff. even if you don't have an extensive research experience. So in my personal experience, I did not have extensive research experience when I started as a research fellow. So there's no need to think about such stuff, And most importantly, which we sometimes mess up with, is professionalism. You have to be very professional. You have to deliver on your promises. You have to deliver on your deadlines. Like if you cannot deliver something on time, just ask them beforehand that, hey, I'm currently working on this. I don't think I won't be able to deliver on that particular day. Can I have some kind of extension? But don't lie that, I'm working on it. I will get it done by today or tomorrow. Just be upfront, be honest about things, right? So this is something I learned over the time, and this is a very brief overview. I know I didn't cover everything, but I will take questions after these presentations and we can talk about further. So these are my contact information. If you want to contact me, feel free to ask as many questions as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. We did learn a lot of important things from you. I would now welcome our next speaker, that is Dr. Javed Iqbal. He is a graduate of King Edward Medical University, class of 2023, and he is a postdoc research scholar in the Department of Neurosurgery, University of Chicago. Javed is one of the very few ones to land a research position right after graduating. He also has a remarkable work in research with 35 publications and over 100 citations. So over to you, Javed.
Hello everyone. My name is Javed and I am working as a postdoc at University of Chicago. So Dr. Ali almost covered all the aspects related to a postdoc, but now I want to give you some practical examples like how to find the postdocs. So let me share the screen, then I will show you on Google and like various platforms like how to apply for the postdocs. Okay. So is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, it's visible, Javed.
Okay. So first of all, like the basic, the point we miss while searching for
Javed, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you just use the slide mode, like presentation mode in the down bottom, like near the magnification part?
Okay,
You
this
can just
one.
go there and it will start as a presenting thing.
Let me see.
Slideshow, start the slideshow. Yeah, like this. Yeah, perfect.
All right. So the most important thing that we usually miss, like while searching for the postdoc, is the university website, university career website. So whenever any university like offers postdoc positions, they usually post it on their university portal. So first, if you are going to apply for the postdoc position, like make sure like you check the university career website. For example, like if I go to a university website, is my Google portal is visible to all of you? Just 1 second.
We can see your slides.
All right. Okay. All right. So like I search on the Google like Duke University careers. Then I will click on the careers and you will see the different like how to find the different careers. So let me go. So you will see the search and apply for the jobs. You will click on that. And in any specialty, for example, if you're applying for the neurosurgery, you can enter the neurosurgery here, and you will click on the search jobs. So like you can see that the clinical research coordinator, like any research opportunity will be available here on the university portal. So first thing, like you can avoid like mass emailing to the people, even though those people maybe don't have any research position available. So first thing, if you're applying for the postdoc, make sure like you search on the career websites. So it is more convenient and the more reliable source. So you can see that the research scientist available in the neurosurgery positions. So there are many positions still available on the university portals. You can check anytime, like there are so many positions. Just enter on the Google, like any university you would like to prefer, and then the specialty you want to go, and then you can look at the various options available there. So then the second thing is the search faculty on Google. So this is how you can do that. For example, if I say like Duke University, for example, I want to go in neurosurgery, so I will search Duke University neurosurgery faculty. So I will click on the first one, and you will see the various professors, various assistant and associate professors will be available. You will click on the first one, and you will see most of the times the emails are available under the name and the designation of the professor. So you can see like the emails are available. The first method is to search on the career website. Second, you can directly search on the Google, like the Duke University or any university, the specific faculty, and the emails would be available most of the times. And sometimes like the university professors doesn't want the email like under their names, or like they would like they don't want to make it open. So what you have to do is you just directly go to the Google, and you will search, like for example, this name was Muhammad. Email. So like wherever it will be available, if like on any other website, it will be visible on the front. For example, let me show you. Like you can see that like here in the contact out, like even though if the email was not available on the website, you can see like contact out Muhammad Abdelbar @gmail.com. So like make sure like the email is correct one, and the is the relevant one. So these are some of the methods you can find emails of the specific person. And the third one is the PubMed articles. If the emails are not available on the career websites, on the university websites, and like not available on the Google, then the final and the last option is to check the articles of that author or that professor. Sometimes like in the author section of the article, the emails are available for that particular person. And even if you are unable to find the emails on the PubMed articles, you have to use the search engines. Like there are many search engines for the emails, like rocketreach.com. Like whenever like when I was trying to find them, the few emails like I didn't find on the Google, so I used rocketreach.com. So like it has it is a funded, you have to pay, you have to buy the subscription, but like it tells emails of every person available on the Google. So you can use various methods like career websites, Google, PubMed Index, and the research engines. So up to you, like where you are, like whom you are searching. So yeah. So now the second thing is the funded versus unfunded research. So according to my opinion, like your experience matters a little bit, not that much in case of funded research. Like, for example, like when I started applying for the postdoc in 2023, when I was a final year med student, so I still had many publications at that time, but like it didn't help me that much. Like even though I also like remember few people like who don't have any experience in the research, but they were able to get the funded positions. So according to my opinion, this is a hit and trial based. So like the more people like you are going to email, there will be the more chances of having a funded position. I am not denying that the research experience doesn't matter at all, but it matters a little bit, not that much to secure a funded position. So the main things that will help you get the funded position is you are eager to learn, like the way you are emailing the professors in the email, it should be clear that you are flexible and you are eager to learn. It doesn't necessarily you must have like hundreds or like 20s of papers. So maybe only one or two papers will be enough if in getting the funded position, if you are like you have good skills or like if you are eager to learn. The most important thing that like helped me in getting the funded position was my CV and was my connections. So in my fourth year, I started working with, with one of the associate professor in neurosurgery in the USA remotely, and I worked with him. And like when I want to get the position at University of Chicago, and that person helped me a lot. Like he made LOR for me, and he sent the professor LOR, and like said like this person is good. Like he writes a lot of papers. So that's how like I landed on a funded position. Not that like that professor saw my CV and I have like 30s of papers and he gave me the position. So unfortunately, this is what it is. Like the things in the USA is a little bit tricky. You sometimes don't understand like what's going on. Like you have many papers, but still you are unable to get the position. So according to my opinion, a formulated CV and the connections help you a lot. Like but research experience helps a little bit. So other thing is studying USMLE during research fellowship. I will prefer like if anyone wants to do the research fellowship, he or she must have taken their STEPS exam. It is not like it is necessary or mandatory to get the research fellowship, but like research fellowship in the USA, like according to my experience in the lab in which I am working, is very hectic. Like sometimes you have to go like 6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, and you came back at the 5 p.m. or the 6 p.m. So, and that during the time you don't get any time like to study for the steps one, because step two is the main like scoring criteria here. So you have to score as maximum as possible in your step two. So I will suggest if you are starting, like if you are thinking to apply for the research fellowship, make sure you have done with your steps exam. And also, if possible, take your OET also before you land in the USA, because like the things in the USA are very complicated and very difficult. So try to wind up the things like in Pakistan as much as possible. So few tips for the CV, like there were a few friends of mine like who want to apply for the research fellowship, and they sent me their CV, and the CV was too fancy. Like there are few templates available like online or like some maybe on Canva. Like I will prefer like not use those templates. Make your CV as simple as possible. Don't make it fancy. Like there is no need to add your pictures on the CVs. There's don't need to add different coloring or like something like that. Make it just as simple as possible. Maybe in the Word format, it would be enough. So, and also when you are applying for the research fellowship and when you are applying for the residency, these two are two different things. Like your CV for the residency will not work in the research fellowship. The professor whom you are sending your CV doesn't have much time to read the whole CV, like 5 to 6 pages. Like make sure your CV should contain only the educational background and like only the research thing. Don't add extracurricular activities. Don't say like I was the president of this sports society or like something like that. Just limit your CV to the educational background and the research. And it will be the best like if the CV is one page. So if somehow your articles are like more, or like you have some more research experience, you can, extend it to the second page, but not more than that. So yeah, this was from my side. So over to you, Mom.
Thank you, Javed. This was amazing. Before proceeding to our next speaker, I would like you all to know that we have a question answer session after our third speaker, and you can type your questions in the chat box as well as the YouTube live stream. So please, guys, make sure to do that. Our next speaker is Waleed, and Dr. Waleed graduated from Khyber Medical College in 2024. He is ECFMG certified, currently a clinical research affiliate at Yale University. Waleed has authored several research publications and presented at various US conferences, and his work focuses on oncology, mainly review papers. Over to you, Waleed.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you are.
Okay, Momina, all right, I'll share my screen. I share with you the slide as well. I just
Yeah,
have one.
we can see the screen and the video, both of those.
You can see my the slide.
Yeah,
What does it say? The highlights?
yeah, exactly that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't share that. How did, okay.
Yeah, I
So,
shared it for you.
oh, okay, wonderful. I made some changes. So let's can you put it down? I'll share mine. That'll be
Yeah,
better.
okay, do that.
Thank you. All right. So, do you guys see the presentation mode or the?
We just see the slides. You have to do the slideshow.
I already have that. I don't know. I sent you a new one. Could you pull that up? Or if this one is fine, then I'll just go with it.
This one's fine. You can go with this.
Okay. I'm sorry for I don't really like to, uh, go over slides. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Waleed. I am like Momina mentioned, I don't think an introduction is necessary beyond that. First of all, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak here, and also I would appreciate the RSAP team for all the hard work, especially Arsalan Nadeem and Ali Hassan for the amazing work. I was impressed, and I didn't know, I knew about the society, but I didn't know about all the rest of the work that you guys are doing. So that's amazing. Glad to see um, Rana Ahsan as well after a long time. I know him from IFMSA, but overall, what a wonderful team. So that's amazing work. I'll speak. I think Ali and Javed already covered a lot of it, and I'm kind of new to this, so I think I'll be able to I think what I'll speak would be likely more inclined towards medical students and recent graduates. And I think you guys can benefit more from it as opposed to old graduates. And I think most of the chunk is are the young people over here. So one thing I wanted to talk about was why do research in the US? So I think research on every level is important, and it's something even if you don't need to be like a great scholar, you just need to know the ins and outs of research, how to write papers, presenting in conferences, because it does help a lot in the US, specifically when you want to enter residency. And there is a specific portion for research publications in the ERA CV. So currently I'm applying for the match, and I can see that if you have something to put in there, You can put like published papers, papers which are unpublished yet, which you have submitted or under review or accepted in press. Even of course, your poster presentations, oral presentations, even if you have written for like something else than like peer review, or like, for example, IFMSA is one of the medical societies or different medical organization, you can put that as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be a clinical trial or like a cohort study or some, a very strongly funded study. Anything, if you do in research, it would benefit you to some extent. That's what I think. That's why I think, plus, you really build a lot of connections, and connections which are built on the basis of research, I think they go a long way. Like connections, they could be like through your clinical work, through your seniors, your med school alumni in the US. And I think research connections are more, I would say, more profound. They go a longer way than you just went somewhere, rotated for a month or 2 weeks. I think research goes a long way. The people whom you work with, and if you show like what Ali mentioned, like professionalism and like commitments and working well with them, I think they can help you really, really much. So that's why I think to a certain extent, it doesn't matter if you don't have extensive experience or so that's why I think everyone in here in the meeting, or everyone who is watching, I think everyone can do this. And to be honest, I'm a kind of person who didn't have any experience up till, I would say, my final year of med school. And I wish someone had guided me properly. And that's why I'm very happy that these organizations exist now, because people who are in the US now, they recognize the importance of this thing. And I think everyone should, at a certain level, do something that you can show when you're interviewing for research position or for residency, or showing your CV to someone in whatever capacity. So a brief overview of why research is important. What credentials are required? So I was looking through the chat and I saw a few questions, and I just decided on basis of that to cover up these things, which the questions I saw. So credentials, again, I think Ali and Javed spoke enough about this, but I would want to reiterate that you don't need to have a very extensive research experience. Like I mentioned, I didn't have a lot of experience. I think the most important thing that you need is interest. The more you're interested, the better your chances of getting something. And it does not have to be a postdoctoral fellowship, like as in like a proper degree or something. Like Ali mentioned, it could be a research affiliate, a research associate, it could be remote work, it could be anything. It could be, you just have to step into the system and then navigate it from there. I really liked how Javed approached this. Like he worked with someone remotely and then had that person vouch for him and then get into the system on site. So that's how it goes. It doesn't have to be like you did your step exams and like conventionally that's how we think, like okay, now I have to do research, so let's start emailing and let's find something in research. I don't think so. It goes the same way for everybody. You might get lucky, you sending emails, you get something, but I think it's kind of more than that. And that's why I think it's not that difficult. It makes it easy. If you have went to the US, if you have presented in some conference, you definitely know someone, residents, fellows, like professors who are working on different projects, and then you can pitch in somewhere and try to, step into the system from there. So that was a brief overview of what credentials you require. And of course, if you have research experience, as in, like Ali mentioned, learning SPSS, R software, Python, or anything which increases your skill set, like which makes you a more skillful person. Of course, if someone is looking for, over here, people don't have like a lot of time to work on every single aspect of a paper. So someone might need a data analyst, someone might need someone who is just really well in writing. So you don't have to learn everything. If you can, like, I would say, balance it out, like learn to write a paper, learn to write abstracts, how to present, how to do proper literature review, the different kinds of studies. Could be like you can start from basics like case reports and then letters, and then go on to like review studies, systematic reviews, and then database studies, and then like take it from there towards more observational studies. And eventually, if you land in a position where you're working in a a university or some department, if they're doing trials, you can pitch in there as well. So I think there will be a kind of more balanced and less stressful way to go about this. Another thing I want to talk about is the communication part and the commitment. So I liked how Ali talked about it, that you have to communicate it well right from the start, that uh, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something on site? Are you looking for, are you able to commit like 1 year, 2 years? If you're not, then mention it right from the start. You don't want to mislead someone into taking you, and then later on tell them that no, you're applying for residency and you cannot like spend more time. Because there have been cases where there have been problems for candidates where they match and then they cannot because especially if you're a visa requiring person, because you have to, the visa that's used for research is different from the one that's used for residency. So you have to, and that's why I say it's not like necessary. I'll come to that as well. Like, is it really necessary to come on site and then like get a J1 for research? Because that's basically the next thing, or one of the things I want to talk about. Like, there could be different opportunities. It could be remote work like Javed did initially, and then you can look at your situation. Are you going to apply right away in a few months, or are you okay with applying next year? How you'll navigate your finances, and then you should decide based on that. And that's why Ali mentioned that your email should not be like a generic email which you're sending to thousands of PIs. And I think that's what makes a difference. If I would, at times, I would even mention in the subject of the email, for example, application for research position, hyphen, and then I would write commitment up to 2 years. So then they know automatically if you're willing to commit, they might read your email. And then because if you I was in a few sessions where the research teams were looking for people, and then they mentioned the supervisor mentioned in the meeting that if anyone is here who's looking for something lesser than a year, then I'm sorry, but I can't take you. I'm looking for someone who is available for 2 years. Because if you go there, your first few months, you have to know the department, you have to know how to work there. And once, let's say you spend 2-3 months learning that, and then like after a few months, you're talking about leaving, they have to find someone else, then that's extra headache for them. So that's why I say it's not necessary to like go and like commit, like, and tell in your email that you'll be available for like 2 years if you are not actually intending to do so. So make solid commitments, and once you make a commitment, then fulfill that. It's very important. Then research in different specialty than your specialty of interest. So this is again one of the questions I saw, and I think even myself included, I don't think it's really necessary to like, if I'm not applying to radiology per se, but I'm doing more work in that as well, and also some oncology, hemonc, and then anything. Basically, at this stage, I think it's not really important for me, and that's why I say it depends on which level you're on. if you are like someone who has already have a lot of publications and are very a proper and you have different goals and you want to be an academic person in the future, then and specifically if you're targeting a specific fellowship like radiology, interventional radiology, or radiation oncology, or like cardiology, then definitely it helps a lot if you have papers specifically in that specific specialty. However, I still think research is a very diverse thing. And if you know how to write a paper in oncology, it's not very difficult to write a paper in radiology or something else. So, and once you're in the system, you can always shift from, like, you worked with someone remotely or on site, or you did a research elective with someone in for example, cardiology, but you're not applying to cardiology. That's I personally think that's a personal opinion, and other speakers can comment on that as well. But I think you can definitely shift from there towards something more oriented towards your future goals. You just have to learn how it works, and then of course it's not like you come. That's why I say it's important to decide how long is the commitment you're making, and what is the nature of the commitment, right? And then remote opportunities. Yes, this is something I would want to talk about because you, like Ali is not, he mentioned his supervisor is okay with him doing other rotations somewhere else. And I think this is important because you might not always be available on site, and that's why there could be opportunities where you don't really have to be on site. Specifically, dry lab, like I mentioned, wet lab versus a dry lab. So wet lab, you have to be there or whatever if it's like something you have to do on site. But if it's something like just writing papers and submitting to conferences and getting in publications, and stuff like that, or like you're not actively collecting data from patients, for example, as in like clinical trial. So I think other work, or rather a lot of work, could be done from a remote site as well. So I know about some people who one of my colleagues actually told me about someone who had a remote position, and the person was in Pakistan, but they were working with someone in the US, and and then you can be paid, it could be unpaid, but the important thing is the research experience and the connection that you make and the papers that you write. Of course, you need some publications for to show it up, right, as well. So it's not just the experience, and that's why it's like quality and some quantity as well. So and then that's where I come to visa options. So if it's something like on site, then definitely legally you cannot work on site without a work visa. So don't be mindful of these things, and you can definitely work remotely without having a research visa. That's so and then research you can do on J1 research visa. It could be H1B visa. I know a few people who are doing that on H1B, and then J1, and a little bit overview of that. So at times, or rather a lot of times, if you get a J1, even if it's unpaid, um, a lot of the times the visa officer puts a 212 rule on you, and which means you have to do a waiver after that, or if you, for example, if it's like 1 year research and you went there, even if it's unpaid, and then you like 212 rule means you have to do a waiver, right? Either come back to Pakistan or whatever the waiver rules are. And then or for example, if you started residency after that, like in 2024 you did a 1 year research on J1, and then you matched for 2026 match or 25 match, you started residency on J1, then you have to do the waiver after your residency. But and this is something you can navigate in a way. You can appeal, and you can waive your waiver. If you request the embassy that you're not actually getting paid, it's an unpaid position, but you have to know the ins and outs of the visa rules and everything, because that's why I say, again, know what you want to do, communicate well right from the start, and know the visa rules and regulations, J1, H1, B1, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and what would you do if you want to like do residency on H1B. Then you also have to think J1 research could be converted to H1B, but then it has to be like an unpaid. I can talk about that in more detail as well, but if someone needs more explanation, but I think since the time is limited, I wouldn't go into a lot of length. But this is something I wanted to mention as well, to know about the visa categories and how every one of them works. And what can you do? I can see some messages. Okay. All right. So what can you do as a medical student? I would say as a medical student, that's what I did. It might not really work for everyone, but I think it does help. So let's say you are in fourth final year, you don't have a lot of research experience. You can start with anything basic, get some publications. It could be cases, it could be letters, editorials, it could be some review papers, work with anyone in your department or remotely. And would be really good if you can work with someone in the US, like your alumni, research fellows, or residents or fellows. And once you get some papers, there are always conferences happening. So like ASH conference is coming up, RSNA is coming up, but that has already been, abstract has been submitted, accepted. So you can't submit anymore, but you can have that in mind for next year. So I don't think everyone over here is exactly like specifically applying for radiology. Or if you are, then well and good. But if there are people who are who have some other specialties in mind as well, then you can be a bit flexible in this, specifically as a medical student, because it's important to know. And I think this helps. Like if you go for conferences, you work some you do an observership, you do some research in different like 2 to 3 specialties, you can actually know which one, which is the one you're most interested in. And at times, like even my supervisors, so you can do observership with them as well, and then research as well, publications as well, and they can write you a letter. So that's what I think it's important, and it would be helpful if you have something more than just observership with someone. So if you're applying for residency, that's basically the next thing, navigating research and residency application. So like the commitment again. So if you are applying for residency right away, you should know what commitment you're making, and you should communicate it with your supervisor when you'll be applying, so that they can write you a letter. And I think it would be wonderful and very helpful if you have one research letter as well, someone with whom you have worked for like a longer time, probably 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. It would reflect a lot on your CV and your application. And of course, that would be a very credible letter. So I hope I covered a lot of the things. And I know it can be, it could be more comprehensive, but we cannot cover everything. So I'm always available. And I'm putting the email in the chat as well. But I think as a medical student, it would be important for you guys to work on something at least, build up your CV. And again, the CV thing, like Javed mentioned, so it has to be a very professional CV, not like pictures in it and errors and grammatic. I have had people send me CVs for review, and I'm happy to do that. And when I see like then you can literally tell they just they didn't work on it properly. Effort was not put into that. I have a template for a CV as well. and which I have used for mine, other than the ERAS CV. So not everyone is applying for residency. So and ERAS CV, again, like Javed mentioned, you can't use the same one for research. So cut out all the extra things, put in your publications, and in a proper manner. You don't write like the title of study and then the authors, the full names. No, there is a certain way you have to write like the publications and like posters, presentations, published, unpublished, and everything. So
Waleed,
I
can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
We're going to start the question and answer session right after this. So you would be here to answer all those questions. So I'm going to move towards that session, and I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions from Waleed, Javed, and Ali. So we'll take turns and let all of the speakers share their thoughts about whatever you want to know. We got a lot of questions on the response form, and I'm going to start with those questions, and then I'm going to move to the questions that you guys just texted in the chat box. So we have a question for all right. First of all, there's this question for Dr. Ali, and it says, can you please elaborate on the grants?
Can you please repeat the question?
Can you please elaborate about the grants that you mentioned?
Yeah, so when you come to the US, you start working as a research fellow. There are different types of opportunities for grant application. So if you are working on a research project and you come up with a research question, so it's very important to differentiate between these two. So if you come up with a research question, you go talk to your mentor that, hey, I have this research question in my mind and I want to, navigate, or I want to investigate on this particular project. Then you write a grant, which you can submit either to Society of Intervention Radiology, RSNA. So there are different societies where you can submit those grants. And even some people submit grants to NIH, so which is the National Institute of Health Sciences, where you can submit your grant. And if your grant gets accepted, that's a very, tightened process. But if your grant gets accepted, you will have the money. So for example, I have a friend who is a resident who submitted a grant for one of his research projects, and he got around $20,000 for his research project funded by Society of Intervention Radiology. So that's a different story. First, I think you need to know how to write a grant, and then there are different varieties of grants and how to approach them. So I think that's a different sort of topic. So I don't think I can cover all those things in this webinar because that's a whole new world for grant writing. But yes, if you start writing grants, you can, get yourself funded as well in collaboration with your mentor. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. There is a question for Dr. Javed Iqbal. It says that, sir, can you please elaborate a little that how to connect with neurosurgeons in the US while we are in med school?
Okay, so basically there are only a few doctors or the MDs in the USA that would like to work remotely. So like they don't have funding and they don't have any lab, but they would like to, add publications in their CVs as well. So they like to, hire some remote researchers. So like anyone who is asking that question can contact me on my email. I will tell him that like whom he should contact for the remote neurosurgeons. So basically like it's a like neurosurgery is another world of medicine. Like it's I don't think so like it relates to the like how the things work in medicine or how things work in other specialties. Like everything is totally different. Like you can't predict that like you are going to have some even remote experience with with that person or not. Like it depends on the mood of the neurosurgeons. So everything is based on luck. So I would say like start emailing the people in the USA and like see if they would like to keep you as a remote researcher or not. Like maybe you have to send like thousands of emails. So that's how it works in the neurosurgery. And you can contact me, like I will send you few emails, then you can send those emails to those person. and like, let's see like if they can keep you as a remote researcher or not.
All right, thank you. So we have a question for Dr. Waleed. Regarding what you said, can you please elaborate on how to mention our publications and our unpublished research presentations on RCP?
So do you mean how to mention your publications on your CV? That's what they want to say? No. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but it's very low. Do you want me to repeat the question?
So do you mean how to mention your publication in the CV?
Yeah,
That's
your publications and your unpublished work in the CV.
so. To be honest, I think it could be a lot of different ways, but I personally used my ERA CV template. So in that, the publications are like peer-reviewed journals published, peer-reviewed journal papers or something / abstracts, and then published. So in that, they ask you should mention the authors and then the title, and then it's usually last name, comma, first and middle name, initial, comma, and then like all the other authors. The template I share, I can have like a few of my papers written so that you can know how to write that. And then the second one in the ERA CV is research peer-reviewed journal papers / abstracts bracket other than published. So other than published, there are 4 to 5 categories. It could be like just submitted or under review or accepted or revision stage, or I think in press. So paper has been accepted, but it hasn't yet been on PubMed or on the website of the journal. So then if you cannot mention it in the published one, it could go into the unpublished. And then the third one is poster presentations, where you have presented the poster. Another one is oral presentation. So I like it like divided on those bases, so that if someone is looking for a specific part, they can actually see that easily and tell that these are the published ones, these are the projects you're working on. And ideally, it shouldn't be like 3 papers in published and like 30 papers in submitted or whatever. So it should be a bit balanced so that it can show that you are getting publications and you're working on more and more projects. But I can share the template and you can tell better how to write it exactly.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. From Dr. Waleed, we have a lot of questions about remote work and how to find remote work. So if you could please elaborate on finding remote work.
So like I mentioned, for example, you have someone, a resident or a research fellow, and their supervisor is willing to, is looking for someone, or someone in the hospital or in the department or in the university as a whole, or any department, or you could email people, for example, LinkedIn, Twitter, and emailing. And there is someone who is like, okay, I can't take you on site, and I don't have enough funding, or I already have the required people. You can stay in touch with them. It's not like that's one thing I also want to mention. If someone gives you a not very positive response, it doesn't necessarily mean a refusal to give you an opportunity. So everyone might not give you something, but you can get something from everyone, I would say. For example, someone is, and again, like Ali mentioned, this is a good time to apply, like January, even January, February, and because people will be leaving, or depends on the residency cycle, right? So if they do not have availability right on the, like at that time, you can apply like later. You can ask them later if they have availability, and once they know you are very interested, you can even tell in the email that I'm also available to work remotely until I'm able to come on site. And then you start working with them, whatever projects they're working on. So remotely, you can write papers, you can submit abstracts, you can share your own work with them and have people from the team work with you on that. Everybody is willing to collaborate on research because everybody wants some publications. So, and if you're willing to put in majority of the work, then definitely everybody would like you. So that's how you navigate and a good thing about that is you do not need any visa for that, right? You don't have to, and until you get your J1 or whatever visa you're going there on, you can work, right? And you can have some impact. And then once you go there, let's say you went on B1, you can go and meet the supervisor, you can show interest, you can talk to them about what you're going to do next and whether or not they're willing to help you with that, sponsor you the visa, a J1, come back to Pakistan, apply for a J1 and have the acceptance letter, documentation ready. And once you have everything all set, you're still working with them, right? And then once you get your J1, you can go there. Even if you don't get it, God forbid, if it gets rejected, you can tell them that was a bad thing that happened, but you're still willing to work with them. So everything, there are like plus and minus, and it doesn't go like very smoothly for everybody. And you can work with someone else and then shift to someone else on the on-site work like Javed did. So it can be there could be a lot of ways to navigate that.
Thank you. This is a question I would like Dr. Javed to go for this. Somebody says they're in the process of learning Python or R. Which do you think is better for research work in general and which is more appealing on our CV?
So basically, there are two types of research: clinical research and the basic science, or you can say the dry lab or the wet lab. So in clinical research, we usually use R. Like in USA, we mostly use R in the clinical research. But when you are doing some basic science or like some hard science projects, you are like doing the analysis on the Python. So I would like to, like if the question, like the person who is asking the question is a student right now, I would like him to have our experience right now for now, because Python is very tricky and very complicated. And like as at this level, he should, have experience in the R rather than in Python.
All right, thank you. There's another question and it says, okay, this is about UK. So is a postdoc fellowship in the US helpful, even if you plan to go to the UK eventually? Any of you can answer this, please.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. Like research is almost even the US or the UK. If you have done research in the US, that would be exceptional on your CV and it will help you get any kind of, position in the UK as well. So because US is well renowned for its research and stuff. So I think that's a good thing to have on your CV.
All right. Somebody says they have applied via career websites countless times. Is it possible that we are automatically removed as potential candidates because of lack of our work visa, which they would have to sponsor?
Yeah, you can continue, Joel.
So basically on the career website, when someone is applying, like he or she should see like if there is a requirement of J1 visa, like there are visa restrictions or not. Like first thing, whenever you're applying to a certain job, he or she should ask someone or like should watch on the, job summary, like if they are going to sponsor the visa or not. If they are definitely not going to sponsor the visa, you are not going to apply for that position. So most of the jobs that are, on the career website, they usually sponsor visa. Maybe like you are rejected because of no experience, because sometimes on the jobs or the career websites, mostly the professors want experience. Even like in my specialty, they want PhD people to have, to be a postdoc. So it may depends, like you lack experience, or it may be like you are, you don't have any proper CV, or there would be some reasons, but I don't think so. Like the visa could be the main reason, because most of the positions on the career or the job websites they usually sponsor visa. Dr. Ali, can you please add into this, like what your insights?
Yeah, I think in my personal experience, when you apply on a career or on a career website, it's very competitive. They want you to have a particular subset of skills, PhD, or if you have worked in a wet lab or stuff like that. So I think it's more competitive. It's not about visa that they don't filter you based on visa. I have seen people from different parts of the world, they come on J1 for these kind of researches. So I think it's mostly because you don't have that skill. You haven't worked in a wet lab, which you unfortunately we can't during our med schools, or we don't have a PhD. We don't have extensive research experience. So as an IMG who don't have but extensive research experience, that's how we navigate through the other channel, which is emailing people directly. Like instead of applying on the job opportunities, you email them directly. Because when you apply on a career website, your CV goes to the department coordinator and they filter out and then send to the principal investigator. But if you email them directly, that in my opinion slightly increases your chance based on if they can offer you a volunteer. So let's say you don't have any experience, you just started, you just graduated out of your med school, so you can just apply and work as a volunteer. I personally know people who didn't have step one, step two, and what they did was they did electives during their fourth year or final year of med schools. And just Waleed mentioned, if you go on B1, B2 for electives, you can meet people in person, you can network over the society organizations or the events that will help you to have some kind of face value. They will know that this person, if we have met him, we know him, is a great person to talk to, and they will prioritize you when you apply for that. So I think if you don't have any research experience, if you are a medical student in third year or fourth year, apply for electives. If you have the resources, go and talk to the people that you are interested in doing research. You can work remotely. Sometimes they will give you a title or a topic and say that, hey, write a narrative review on this or write a systematic review on this, because you can work remotely, because you cannot have access while you are in Pakistan for a clinical data. Even if they want to, they will give you something anonymized. They will remove any potential identifiers from that list and give you something to analyze. So for example, if I am working on a project and I need someone to analyze the data, I will just anonymize the data and send it to him to analyze over R or SPSS. So that's how your skill will come in. You can sell yourself that I can do the analysis for you. I can write the introduction, or I can, write the whole paper for you. Because even for original papers, you need to have introduction, you need to have discussion, which don't require actual patient data. You can just go through the PubMed articles and, write it accordingly. Yeah.
Thank you. We don't usually hear about research electives a lot, but I have a few questions in the chat box that are asking about research electives and if they will benefit you somehow in getting a postdoc position.
I think they definitely help. For example, Hopkins have a research elective program. The other institutes have a research elective program as well. So they will definitely help you in getting a research position. So if you work with your preceptor during your research elective, if you work well, you can ask them in future to recommend you. So that's the whole thing. You have to have someone vouch for you. Even if you have done electives, you can ask that person to vouch for you when you are looking for the research positions. Right. So it doesn't matter if you are on a clinical elective or a research elective. If someone can vouch for you, I think that's the best thing you can have. Because at the end of the day, people want someone, who won't create problems, who is easy to work with, who is easy to talk to. So one thing which we sometimes, is this is a misconception. You don't have to have everything on your CV. If you have everything on your CV and, people don't feel comfortable around you, I think that's a turn off. No one wants to work with someone who is not easy to talk to, who is arrogant, who is, proud. So I think a lot of things in your personality matters as well. So everything counts when it comes to applying for even residency research positions.
All right, thank you. A lot of surgeons in the US don't give paid research opportunities. So somebody wants to know that if we want to get a match in general surgery, what should we do if we're not getting paid opportunities?
Uh,
I think Yeah,
For
if one even
the general surgery, I guess like the better path is to have the prelim position, because in the last year statistics, I guess after internal medicine, the most of the IMGs get matched into the surgery. So you can have, like few papers on your CV by working remotely, and like maybe one or two observerships in general surgery, and then you can apply for the prelim surgery only. Prelim surgery is easy to get as compared to the categorical general surgery position. So when you will land into prelim general surgery, then after that it will be very easier for you to get a categorical match next year. So if you don't get the paid research position, like have 1 to 2 months maybe observership, maybe 4 to 5 papers on general surgery, then you can apply for the prelim general surgery. After that, it will be easier for you to shift it to the categorical position.
All right. Do you want to say something about it, Dr. Hilly?
No, I totally agree with Javed on this.
Okay, so if somebody is in US for electives or for observerships, and then they find a research position there, can they switch from the B1, B2 visa to the J1 visa while they are there?
I think they need to have, they need to go back to their country and switch, because switching visas in the US can be time taking, and you don't want to compromise or jeopardize your position. So go back to your country, have your J1 approved, and then come back again. And even like this will also help you in getting J1 visa, because they will know that you went on B1 and you came back on time. You didn't extend your stay in the US.
Can I
Alright.
comment?
Yes, go ahead, Naveed.
So, like Ali mentioned, it depends on your situation. A visa is to enter a country, right? So, it doesn't matter whatever visa you enter US on. What matters is what you're doing in the US. So, for example, if you're on a B1 and someone is willing to sponsor you a work visa, which would be J1 or H1B, and and you don't want to go back and spend all the time and then come back and apply, like it could take like up to 6 months if you go back, apply, or depends on the documentation and everything. So you can, if you start working on research in the US, not presentations or something, actual research in a department. If someone is offering you a non-funded position, unpaid position, don't go and start that on B1. That is a violation. So then the appropriate thing is to change your visa category. What is the status that you're staying on in the US? Is it a B1 visa status? Is it a work status? So ideally, you should go back and apply for a J1, because or H1B. H1B is dual intent. J1 is non-immigrant intent. So J1 visa and B1 visa, these are non-immigrant visas. So coming to the US and then staying or changing your status, it can work legally. You can be in the US on B1, you entered on B1, you can apply and change your status to a J1 and start working directly. It might or might not cause you problems in the future, because you can justify it and you didn't do anything illegal. It's the same as saying how longer should you stay on a B1 in the US. Ideally, stay for 2 to 3 months, 4 months, go back. But you can stay for 6 months and you can go out and spend one day or a minute outside and come back and spend 6 months again. But again, it's legally okay, but they might not like it. So if you can do it, go back and apply for J1. But if that's not something you would want, or not an option, you can change your status to H1, J1, anything while you're in the US, because you have already entered the country. But don't work on research on a B in the US. That's not appropriate.
All right, thank you. We also want to know if you should be done with both of your steps before you land a research position, because some of the participants have cleared step 1, but they are looking for research positions, and if they're wondering if they get a research position before they give their step 2, should they go for it or not?
So I think that's a great question. If you have, for example, if you get a funded position opportunity and if you have taken your step one, I think go for it and you can take your step two along with that. Like I know a lot of people who come from Iran. They don't even have step one or step two because I think they have some country restraints over that. So they come based on their research experience, take their step one and step two while they are doing research. So no one ask you to have your step one or step two be clear beforehand. But if you have done step one and step two, it will help you navigate through through the time. You can manage your time with the research, focus more on research, but no one will ask you to have those cleared before you come. So it's up to you.
Thank you. How can we support ourselves on unpaid positions? Are we supposed to do any alternative jobs to support us while we are on a J1 visa there?
So who wants to take this?
No, I mean like if you are on J1, like you have to do that certain job. For example, if you are a research position at a research position, you have to do only research position. You can't do other jobs. It's
Yeah,
illegal.
the
Like
violation. Yeah.
if you are like being reported to some authority, you will be, deported out of the country and you will not be allowed to enter in the USA forever. So, this thing you have to figure out before you accept the unfunded position. You have to figure it out yourself, talk to your parents, like if they can, sponsor you, and like you have to calculate the amount like you are going to spend monthly and then yearly. So it's all about like these things should do like before you accept a position. So yeah, I guess like if you are having some unfunded position right now and you can't afford that, so you should apply and try emailing other people, more and more people. The more you apply, the more the opportunity you will get the funded position.
All right. There's a question which is very similar to the last one. It says, what preparations should we have in mind in Pakistan before applying to postdoc regarding visa, steps, finance, and qualifications? So I think they just want an overview on these things.
I think in terms of qualifications, as I mentioned, if you have done step one and step two, that's a plus point. And in terms of research, you don't need a lot of papers. Even if you have done on one or two projects, you have worked on them, that's totally fine. Even if you don't have any research, that's fine as well. And it doesn't matter, for example, you want to apply for IR research position. So it doesn't matter if you have done research in medicine because it's the same as Reed mentioned. Research is not different when it comes to different departments. Every paper is similar, how to write it, how to analyze it. So whatever research experience you have, you can just briefly mention that in your CV. And regarding finance, it's all up to your circumstances. Unfortunately, this varies a lot from person to person. So I think it's good to have a talk with your parents and explain the whole situation to them. If you can ask for a loan from your alumni organizations, you can do that as well. But unfortunately, this is something we have to figure that out, and it's very subjective.
I would like to also comment on this. Ali, a great perspective. And I think this is a realistic perspective as well. And you should have an idea of what you're going to do. And that's why I say it's not necessary to, commit to something if you can't finance yourself. And you don't have to, like, I would say, like Javed mentioned, if you're not absolutely not able to spend any money in the US while you're doing unpaid, then look for something that's paid. Or for example, if you're able to fund yourself for probably like 5 to 6 months, like you have $5,000 to $10,000 and you can stay there, like pay the rent and do research and not do a lot of extra things, then you can like organize your budget. And when you're in the US on a J1 doing research in one department, ideally it should be communicated with the supervisor as well, that okay, I'm able to come and do like work with you on an unpaid position, but would it be okay if I think it you have to communicate. Some supervisors might be okay with you working with them for a few months and you looking for something else that's paid in the same department or the same hospital or something that pays you more, right? So it's very I would say it's very circumstantial and very like something which varies between people's, and don't ask like I would say don't get misled if someone tells you no, unpaid is not really an option, or just or paid is like because everything has some plus minus things. If you're doing paid work, then the 2-1-2 rule. If it's unpaid, you can waive that off because you're not getting paid for that. So it depends on you. At times you might actually want an unpaid. You don't want to have the rule applied to you, the waiver. So I think it depends on your situation, and look at what you can do. And you don't necessarily have to go on a J1 and work for 2 years. It could be 1 year, it could be 6 months if someone is okay with that, right? But ideally, they look for people who are willing to work with them for a year or more than that. But there are people who can accept you for shorter period. Okay.
Thank you. There's a question on US clinical experiences. Can we do US clinical experiences for our LORs while we are working on a postdoc position?
Yes, absolutely, yes. That's what I'm doing right now. So you can start your research position, ask your mentor that I want to do an away rotation. So you can do a rotation and then ask the person you are rotating with for an LOR. So I think that's totally doable, and you can simply just go and ask your mentor.
All right. There's a question for Javed. I would like to ask, what are the research skills that professors will be looking for in our CV?
So like it's very variable. Like if you want to work, or if you have applied or like in a clinical research or the clinical lab, like they might be looking for someone who is good at writing and like maybe good at analysis using R or SPSS. Like these two skills are must required for the clinical research. But when you are like applying for a wet lab or the basic science lab, so you must have, a very good, amount of skills you must have. Like for example, you must know how to do ELISA, you must know how to do mass spectrometry. There are so many stuff in the basic science you must know. But I would suggest, like if you have, like the clinical research is more important in neurosurgery as compared to the basic science. So like even when you apply for the residency, so the clinical research fellow gets more benefit as compared to the person who is working in the basic science. So like at least you must have the skills of manuscript writing and the analysis. These two things are must, and every person where you are applying, he must be looking for someone who is good at writing and good at analysis.
All right. Do clinical gaps count while we are applying for a research position?
No, I don't think so. Because
Okay.
you're not applying for the match, you are just applying for the research position, and no one will, I think, consider that gap. They just want you to work with them, and that's it.
All right. What are the requirements to pursue research as a career and not just for residency?
Yeah, so there's a track called physician scientist. So even there are different residency spots for that. So what a physician scientist is, that department give you the bandwidth to do research along with your residency. So you can be a resident and also do research, and be an investigator of the studies once you graduate from the residency program.
Or I guess if I understood the question, like the person is asking if we just want to follow the research as main career, like we will not jump into the clinical side, like just doing the research, maybe having some lab and not going into the clinical side at all. I guess the question
Yeah,
is.
I think you can do that as well, but mostly people I have seen is they have some kind of specialization, even if they are, working in diagnostic radiology. So they have the residency completed and then they do research. Or if you are a PhD, then you can pursue research in the long run.
Yeah, I also like there are some people in my university as well. They didn't, do the residency. They have done the PhD, and then they, in the span of 10 years, like they have a lab, and now they are working and they are enrolling the people. So yeah, the having the PhD, like is in maybe like mandatory to have a lab in USA if you want to do, like to pursue research as a career and not jumping into the clinical side. So I guess the PhD should be done like if you want to follow research as a career.
All right. We have a question about this is about building a good CV. So somebody says how we should build a good CV in order to achieve a research position in such a competitive environment.
I think again this is very variable, but start working on research. That's all you can do to show your interest. As Javed mentioned, if you're applying for residency, you need to have different skill set. But if you are just applying for the research position, acquire some skill, learn R, learn the referencing softwares, involve yourself in the research projects going on in your med school or any opportunity you find, or work remotely with someone in the US so they can eventually vouch for you. So I think these are the things which you can do. Just get yourself familiarized with the research workflow, how it works, and just get involved. So there is no hard and fast rule how to start the research because you can take a bunch of courses and then you don't know anything. So the best way to do research is just dive in it. Eventually you will learn. There's a first time for everything. Just start doing it. That's what I did, and that's what I think is the best option.
All right. There's another question for you again, Dr. Ali, and it says, how flexible is a postdoc in diagnostic and interventional radiology?
In terms of the timing,
I think that's what they meant.
yeah, so a research position is quite flexible. So if you are just doing dry lab work, you can even work from home. No one expects you to be there at 8 a.m. So they just want work done. So for example, if my mentor asks me to write a paper on something, it doesn't matter if I'm doing that in a coffee shop or I am, working in the lab. So it's very flexible in terms compared to the residency. But if you are working in a wet lab or you are the trial coordinator, then it becomes hectic. You have to be there every day, 8 a.m., talk to the patients, consent them. Because for clinical trials, you don't know when the patient is going to come. So you have to screen the patient, consent them, talk to them, get the signatures on the consent form, and then enroll them in the study. So that's something hectic. But in terms of other work, it's very flexible, you can work for anywhere.
All right. Can somebody says if they can get into their desired fields after doing research in any research position in any field that was available to them?
That's exactly what I talked about.
Yeah.
Research work is valuable and you can apply for cardiology while working on gastroenterology position because you have publications, you know the ins and outs of research. But for specialties like radiology, like surgery, uh, it definitely would be more valuable to do something that's in that same specialty because the supervisor is in that specialty. They can guide you about that. If you ask radiologist about pediatrics, they might not be able to help you that much. So of course it's helpful. Like this is the same as saying can we do elective in cardiology if you are applying for internal medicine? Yes, of course, because at the end of the day it is medicine, you're learning something. But if it's something like in the internal medicine residency program and a rotation with them, that's more helpful because you can get more connections in the same field where you're applying. But any research work is valued, and then you can of course switch from one department to another if the supervisor is okay with that, and if you're getting something more valuable or someone needs you somewhere else which would help you more, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with Dr. Walid. So, like in internal medicine, like if you are working in the cardiology, definitely you can apply for the internal medicine residency match. But if you are doing like maybe general surgery research, you can't apply for the neurosurgery match. And you can't apply for the plastic surgery match because even in the neurosurgery, if you have neurosurgery papers and you are applying for some residency, sometimes they see like your paper should be restricted or limited to a certain subspecialty. So even these competitive specialties yeah, in these competitive specialties, the topics of the papers matter a lot. So you have to, I will suggest you to try to limit your, interest towards a specific subspecialty from the very beginning, because it will help you a lot. It will show your dedication on your CV that you are like highly committed to one subspecialty and you want to work in that. Like if you have like diversity of papers on your CV, definitely from my point of view, it will be considered as a red flag. Like it will portray that this person is not interested in a specific field. He just want to, publish papers, more and more papers. So I will say like just try to limit to one subspecialty.
Especially if the specialty is neurosurgery, then I think you should be more dedicated towards that.
Yeah.
Do we have more questions?
There are some questions in the chat. I tried to answer most of them, but I think we lost Momin. No.
Mom, are you there? So I think there's something wrong with her network. So if anyone have any questions, you can open your mic or just drop in the chat box, because we are running short on time, so we would like to wrap up. But if you have any questions for follow-up questions, you can just drop them in the WhatsApp group which we have, and we would be happy to answer them.
I
So
guess
I think,
there's
yeah,
one question that explain the waiver rule more for paid and unpaid positions. So, I guess it doesn't matter like if you have paid or unpaid position, or like if you have paid position, the waiver rule will apply. It doesn't matter. So it depends on the maybe country or sometimes the funding source. For example, if your research is funded by NIH, so definitely you are going to have the waiver, like 2-year home rule, sorry. So if you are like getting funding from your own government, then definitely you will have the 2-year home rule. But if you are getting funding from the private source, maybe for example like your mentor directly, or like some other private companies in the USA that are going to sponsor you, you will not get the 2-year home rule. So like for example, like my research is funded, but I don't have any 2-year home rule. So it depends on the various variables like the funding source, and like also like maybe some like internal variables that we don't know. Like there are some countries in which like the 2-year home rule will like definitely apply. For example, the Lebanon, like Iraq, Iran, even though like their funding sources are private, even still they will have the 2-year home rule. So like it depends on the various factors, most importantly the funding source, where you are getting your funding from.
So Dr. Javed, I have a question. So if it's like from a private source, as in like someone individual or a company, like a pharmaceutical company, or so then the waiver, then
Yeah,
the
I guess even if it is from pharmaceutical company that is not like government, something like that, then you will not have some 2-year home rule, because like my mentor is having funding from government of the USA, NIH, and also from the various private companies. But I don't have any 2-year home rule. So maybe we can, have like I searched on the Google, and it said that like if you have the funding, you are getting funding from the government or the NIH, then you will have the 2-year home rule.
Yes. I also know people who are on unpaid positions, like you mentioned as well, and the visa officer just puts the rule on that. And then once you're in the US, you can request for the rule to be waived
Okay,
off.
so there is another misconception. Like sometimes when you go for visa, like visa consulate mark, like this, candidate doesn't have any 2-year home rule, but it is not the ultimate answer. Like you have to sometimes get the advisory opinion from, USCIS. So it will be the definite answer whether you are going to have 2-year home rule or not. Sometimes it's false, like the visa officer, doesn't even know that like you are going to have 2-year home rule or not. So it's better to get the 2-year like advisory opinion from the government of the USA, other than like trusting on what the US consulate marked on your visa.
And what is your suggestion to approach the USCIS? Do you have to email,
So
call them?
yeah, basically there is all the information is available on the USCIS website. So you have to basically fill a form on the USCIS website, waiver form and waiver advisory form. You will fill that form, then you have to attach your DS-2019 and like your visa, maybe like photocopy of your visa and attach with it, and you will email it to that respective department. Then they will give you, and also you have to pay, I guess, $60 to $70 fee, and then they will give you an advisory opinion maybe within 10 to 20 days. And that will be the final answer, like if you are going to have 2-year home rule or not.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. So
Oh.
it's for someone who went there on J1, has the rule on the passport, on the visa, and now they want to see if it really applies to them or if they want to waive it off.
Yes, because like that's what I was telling. There was a postdoc from Lebanon, like her visa says the 2-year home rule doesn't apply. But when she was switching from one institution to another and she has to reapply for the J1, so she can't apply because of the 2-year home rule. So like in the hidden way, like the 2-year home rule applied to her, even though like her visa says like no, it doesn't apply. So we
Oh,
can't we can't rely on what visa says. So we have to get the advisory opinion for the final answer.
yeah, so that's what my question was. Like for someone who has the rule applied, it's written on the visa, right? And
Yeah.
then you want to see if it actually applies or you want to waive it off. You request them send the form that you explained. But for someone who does not have it on the visa, that's where you mentioned they still need to apply and see if it's really not there or not. Like if
Yes.
they would. Mhm.
Yes. Even though my visa say my 2-year home rule doesn't apply, even then I sent email like mail to the USCIS to get to know like whether I really don't have the 2-year home rule or like it's just a false like maybe impression on the visa like it doesn't apply.
I'm
Fantastic.
sorry, I'm going to interrupt. We are short on time and we haven't answered all of the questions because we are done with our 2 hours webinar. But I would like to thank all of our speakers. You guys were exceptional and we learned a lot of new things from all of you. And I would also like to attend our participants who were there and who listened and asked questions. You can visit rsap.pk to learn more about us. That is our website. And we have also opened our WhatsApp group chat. You can send your feedback and your comments in that group chat. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned, and thank you to the speakers once again.
Thank you everyone for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you.